Hello, how's it going? Today we're going to be looking at handbrakes. It's one of the last mechanical things that we actually need to do to the chassis before we start looking at the body and things like that. Before I did that actually, I have put in the rear friction dampers. It feels a little bit more shock absorbery, hardly. Here's a little bit about that. Yesterday, I chopped a couple of chunks of aluminium off with the Rapidor Manchester, as you can see, and today we're going to be making things with them. The first thing we need to do is plop them in the milling machine and make them exactly the same size with the end mill. So I got out the fancy measuring stick thingamajig and just went to town, wiggling about until we had two chunks that were exactly the same. Lovely jubbly. Now what we're going to do next is we're going to chop some holes into them. So I popped them both in the vise and went down and made two 20mm holes that were 80mm apart. Lovely jubbly. Next thing we're going to do is put some go faster grooves into it. So we're going to go with the end mill and just chop and down and down and down until we've got a little bit of a fancy looking design. I mean, this is completely pointless. It's just there to look cool. So we got that bit right there. Do you know what it is yet? After I did that on both sides of both of them, it was time to get a bit curvy. So we're going to pull out the vise and plop in the rotary table so we can make it nice and curvy. So what I'm going to do now is actually curve the outsides of these to make it a little bit soft. I'm trying this as a method because I usually do it a different way in the vise. I've covered it before, but I wanted to try it out on the rotary table, see how it works. So I'm just incrementally moving in until it gets smoother and smoother and you get a perfect contour around the outsides. So I needed to do this around each of the holes. It was a bit of a wiggle until they all worked, and yeah, after that we're going to pull them off and admire our workmanship. But first we're going to put some rubber grommets in there because, have you guessed what it is yet? Yeah, it's a rubber grommet machine. No, it's an Austin 7 rear suspension drop link. So yeah, there we go. And now we're going to plop them onto the Austin 7 so we can actually have some suspension dampers, much the same as in the front. So yeah, if you want to see how that's going, then follow and check it out. Anyway, toodly-doo.
A small parcel arrived from the 7 workshop, and importantly, it's got some brass separator discs. Ours they're a little rough. We got some new shiny ones to make the friction dampers work well as some nice new friction dampers made from beech, soaked in talin, which will give a nice smooth action to the friction dampers. Anyway, there's only really one way these go together, and make sure there's a friction damper on either side of the friction plate with a brass separator disc, as you can see. And then after that's been plonked in, you just have to put the pressure plate onto it, and then the spring mechanism that basically adds pressure to all of this to be able to sandwich it together and squeeze it together to act as a bit of friction to kind of have a half-assed attempt at dampening your suspension. After that's all connected, we're going to add it to the long drop links.
I want to mess around on this car with different shock absorber setups, but I want to do that after trying out the friction dampers first. So they're in there now and they're pretty good. Anyway, now let's jump on to the handbrake. So this isn't actually the original one. This was in the spares box, but this is what was on the 1926 Austin 7 that we've got right here. It basically sits about here, and what it does, you would have seen in the video of us pulling apart the chassis originally, is it pulled back and it connected to two cables that connected to the front brakes. This didn't actually connect to the back brakes at all. However, if you've been following along with the series, we've updated the brakes to hydraulic brakes all around and mechanical rear handbrake levers right at the back, which are from Morris Minors. Later on in time, the handbrake got quite a bit more involved on the Austin 7. In fact, the blue Austin 7 that I've got has got a completely different handbrake altogether. There's a rod system that connects between it, and when you pull it back, it actually pushes on this kind of rod fork that controls both the front brakes and the back brake, so the handbrake is on both brakes. If this car had this setup, connecting the original handbrake would be quite a bit simpler. But with this car, that is not the case. Now the problem is here is we're going for a 4-speed gearbox and a larger prop shaft. It actually gets in the way of this original handbrake. So I've been thinking about what else to do. And if you saw the shorts that I put up the other day, you would have known that I've got considering I've got the rest of the brakes from the Morris Minor, I've got a Mark 1 Morris Minor handbrake. It's actually really quite nice. It's got really nice lever action. It really caught my eye. It's really pretty. I quite like this. But anyway, I was sat around thinking about where I could potentially put this handbrake lever. A lot of Austin 7 specials with similar handbrake setups actually have a bar that goes along from this front cross member all the way to the back, and then it bolts to that. But to me, that just seems like extra metal that doesn't really need to be there, potentially. So I had this idea of putting it right here, like in between your feet. So I think it's actually a pretty good place for a handbrake, to be honest. You're driving around, your clutch, your foot pedals here, you're about sat here because we're further back. We're actually a bit further back than that. You're driving, we're a little bit taller, and the handbrake is in between your legs. The groin brake, I'm gonna patent it. So we got the groin brake right here, and that sits about there. And what the great thing about the groin brake is it literally bolts to the chassis. You don't actually need any extra metal work. So it's just less complex and less things to faff about. But last night, this was actually keeping me up. And bear in mind, I've got a 7-week-old baby. This was keeping me more up than the baby. I just didn't know whether this was really what I wanted to do. I put up a short about this the other day. Here it is. Good afternoon. This right here is my Austin 7. And I've got a question for all of the smarty pants out there. I mean, genuine question right here. So basically right now, I'm trying to work out where to put the handbrake. I'm going with a Mark 1 Morris Minor handbrake. It's from the Top Action. It's rather swanky indeed. I quite like it. It's quite nice. And yeah, I want it in an inconspicuous spot. And it's, yeah. Let me just show you what I'm working with. Oh, that gives me the ghoulies. So the question I have is, you know, I'm sitting about here. Can you even see me over this point? The steering wheel's about here, yeah? So I'm sat like this. And a perfect place for the handbrake to be is literally between my legs. Like, so the pedals are here and the handbrake will be about here. So, like, are you allowed to do that? Is there a rule that I'm not aware of that means you cannot do that? Or, I don't care if it's frowned upon, you're like, oh, no, go, get in the way. It won't get in the way, like, it's fine. If there's no actual, like, proper legal reason that I can't put the handbrake lever in between my legs, I'm going to put it between my legs. So please comment below before I make a grave mistake. And I predictably got a lot of varying and colourful opinions from everybody, understandably. Thank you very much. And I'll run through a few of the ideas that have come up and what I've been thinking about. So, funnily enough, originally I was going to go with an outside handbrake. But the problem with that is, remember, this actual shell, which is above me, has got doors. And where the handbrake intersects with the car, if it's where my hand is right where the door is. Usually these are put on Austin 7s and things that don't have doors. So I didn't really want to do it, and I want it to be a bit inconspicuous. So the outside, not really a thing. And that would be a lot simpler if we actually had the later handbrake rod, because I could literally plonk on the end of that rod. Very simple indeed. Predictably, quite a few wild cards came up in the comments. We've got a Citroen 2CV style umbrella handbrake, which is on the dashboard. We're not eating baguettes here. Fair enough on the 2CV, but why would I go to the extra effort of shoving the handbrake lever up there? Other comments were a handbrake foot pedal. Just seems like extra complications that don't really need to exist. Other people were saying hydraulic handbrake, so you could put it anywhere. You could have it on the dash and stuff. Hydraulic handbrakes are unfortunately not road legal in the UK. You can have an electronic brake, like a modern emergency electronic brake. I'm going to all of this effort to try and keep it, you know, 1950s-ish era modifications. I'd rather not. And there was a load of other ideas and plenty of food for thought. And honestly, it was keeping me up because I was still thinking this is a good idea. In fact, I still think this is a good idea. But I have had a moment of sanity this morning, and I think I know what I'm going to do. I was looking at how I was going to merge these two together, but then I thought to myself, this one is actually really quite pretty and actually quite chunky. Putting it on this just seems a bit of a shame, this dainty little thing, which does look nice, but I actually really quite like the look of this handbrake. It looks quite nice vertical as well. So this is what I'm going to do. We can actually mount it upright next to the prop shaft, approximately here. I don't want to put it on top of the tunnel that goes over the prop shaft because that's where the remote gear changes, because the gearbox is going to be all the way over here. The original gear stick isn't going to work, so it needs to go a bit further back. That's another project that we're going to build in a little while. I'm going to have it, I think I'm going to put it somewhere around here. In order to do this, I'm going to put an engine block in here and a gearbox to work out what clearances we have, and then basically go to town and make this modification happen. So let's get started. You know what? For a 4-speed gearbox, because I haven't really gone for a super extreme rake. The seat will be a bit taller, but actually I might not need a remote gear change. That's pretty good. Like first, second, third, fourth, reverse. I just might need to just extend this slightly. Maybe I just need to modify this stick. It works pretty well. I mean, it's going to be right in the way of whoever's sitting here. That's kind of, wow. Where's the handbrake going? So there's the brakes, there's the foot brake, there's the accelerator, that's the steering, handbrake. To be honest, the handbrake could go quite a bit further back. Could be like here. Could be approximately here. I think I'm going to put it right here. And that means I can actually bolt it onto this diagonal beam that I've made. I just need to make a bracket for it, basically.
The first thing I did was heat it up and basically beat the heck out of it until this part of the mount ended up becoming flat, because I figured it was easier to mount it onto a bit of flat steel. As you can see, it's nice and flat now, so we're able to make a new steel plate shape. So I plopped it on some 4mm steel to figure out roughly where to put some holes to be able to mount it. I found that it didn't actually work without cutting a groove in it, so here we are. I'm using this flappy disc. Frustratingly, the guard broke off this grinder, so what are you going to do? Anyway, now I kind of freeform jazzed a bit of a shape to be able to cut out and hope it sort of matches up with the plan. As you can see, that's that bit right there. So we're going to be bolting this onto the handbrake like so, and then try and offer it up to the car and see how the fudge it can fit on there. I'm hoping it's going to fit to the diagonal crossbeam that I built in a previous video, so it doesn't actually need to connect to the original chassis, which will be quite handy. And I figured I'm going to go right here. So I welded it on with a couple of tack welds just so it sits in place, so we can put the body on and see if it actually sits where it needs to sit, if it's going to get in the way of anything and stuff like that.
I couldn't sleep last night because my handbrake predicament was annoying me. I can't hear you. I've got earplugs in. If you saw my videos yesterday, I was talking about where to put the handbrake. And I initially went with the groin brake idea. But yeah, after a little bit of figuring out and kind of like just concluding to myself and asking to myself, what do I want? What do I want? I think I figured out where I'm putting it and what I'm doing. So let me show you. Let me show you. Oh. It's currently tacked in place. You can see it already, I'm sure. So this is a Morris Minor handbrake. It's quite a dashing looking handbrake. It's got like a lever on the back. And you can modify it easily to be a fly-off handbrake if you really want. But, right, so here's the clutch, isn't it? It's just right next to, I just got it sitting upright. I think it looks quite nice. It looks like the original one, which is currently just tacked to the triangle beam that I made in a previous video. I've been making a long form version of this video for the Look Mum No Engine channel if you're interested. There's a 4-speed gearbox if you're interested. But yeah, let's see what it looks like when we pop the body on it, shall we? Let's see how to do this. Let's see what it looks like. I haven't tried this yet, so I'm very curious. You know what? I think that's just right. Oh yeah. There we go. So it goes like that. Boom, 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 boom. So there we go. Handbrake. Beautiful. Overall, I'm quite happy with this location. It's quite good. I mean, I'm assuming the seat's going to be approximately here. It might be a tiny bit further forwards. It's good. I can put a spacer on it. I can put washers to push it forwards that way a little bit. I might put one set of washer just to send it that way a tiny bit, but it works pretty well. And then there's the clutch, and there's the gear stick. Obviously, it doesn't even go up because of the dashboard. This is a 4-speed, so it's slightly bigger and different. I think I'm going to go with it because the 3-speed, just the length of distance between the second and the third gear. Like if you see in the video with the blue car, you have to wait for ages for it to then shove it in third gear and the revs just drop. It's a bit naff. And yeah, this gear stick, whilst it's actually not that bad, I was thinking maybe I'll pull it a bit further down. I might bend it down, but if that doesn't work, then I'll go with the initial plan, which is actually cutting the end of the gear stick off and putting it here with a rod that kind of controls it remotely. I might still do that, but it's good there. It'll be good. But yeah, I'm pretty pleased with that. So without further ado, I'm going to take the body off. I'm going to bolster up the mount that I've put in, because I've literally just put a couple of tack webs on it, and then connect the cables from the back to the gear stick, and that'll be us done for today. Ooh, that'll be good. So yeah, let's get the body off. Whoa, whoa.
After that, I decided to finish this mount by adding a couple of gusset bits of metal and finishing off the welding. I decided to weld it instead of bolt it in place, just to make it a bit more solid, because this diagonal crossbeam is a bit I added to kind of strengthen the chassis. I may as well weld it all onto there.
Now, for simplicity, we've got the Morris Minor cylinders on the back. We've got a Morris Minor handbrake, so we may as well use the Morris Minor handbrake cables. Ooh! These are of course a good option because they've got the Bowden sleeves over them, so we can wiggle them around as much as we like. They might be a little bit on the long side, but I think that'll work in our favour. The handbrake would usually be bang in the middle on the Morris Minor, so these are both exactly the same length. It's slightly over there, so the one that's going from this tyre is going to need to be a little bit longer, but we're going to try and keep them exactly the same length, so they kind of, these don't need modifying. So we're going to take a little bit of a different route to this side. So I figured the most sensible way of doing this is starting by actually attaching both of these to the handbrake lever, and then working back and figuring out where we need to go. So just going to pop them on here. There we go. So we've got all of the handbrake spares. This is one of the bolts from a Morris Minor as well, to adjust the tension on the handbrake. Get to do exactly the same on the other side. Also, because the handbrake's facing upwards, the leverage is slightly different. It is slightly less, because usually it'll be coming from this angle, because this is usually faced flat. So there's a bit more distance, but there's not that much. There's not a lot, but there is a bit to take into account. I'm gonna start by drilling a couple of holes into the crossbeam, having them mounting pretty much simply right here. We've got to make sure that it doesn't interact with this. I might put a sleeve over this. Remember, this is going on a wiggly woo in case we add a brake balancing tap that's going to go around here, but we'll figure that bit out. But let's get this bolted in first. Like so.
I then cut out these two shapes from the same bit of 4mm steel to be able to weld onto the back axle to be able to act as the mount for the other side of the Bowden cable. So after a lick of paint and a little bit of a sprucing, we were able to plonk the other side of the Bowden cable on. It was going to be equidistant on either side from the actual cylinders to make the action of the handbrake the same on both sides, so it's symmetrical. But after we plonked them both together and put some kind of covers over it to stop things rubbing around, I'm going to be adding more clips to hold this in place, as well as more clips in the brake lines in the next video, because I do think it needs a bit more intervention. Anyway, after putting the clevis pins and the split pins in and then tightening it up to tension, it's pretty much done.
So there we go. We've got ourselves a handbrake, and it's working. Yeah. That's pretty damn good. It's nice and solid. There's a bit of work that I need to do on the brake lines at the back. I'm going to add a couple more like fittings to the brake lines, and also the cables for the handbrakes. I'm just going to give it a bit more thought between now and the next video. I know what I'm doing, I'm just waiting for a couple of bits to turn up. So I'll figure that all out, but it works really well. It works really well. So yeah, that's that job done, and to be honest, there's not much mechanical stuff left to do on the car now. We've got the brakes done. Like I said, I'm going to do a bit of finessing back here at the start of the next video, but that's pretty good. Needs a slight bit more adjustment on this side, but yeah, it's definitely on its way. Yeah, the next job is to put the engine in and then sort out the chunkier prop shaft, and then we can actually put the body on, and before we know it, it's going to be a running car. So that's pretty awesome. If you want to follow along, check out over on Patreon, because I'll be talking about it over there first. Needless to say, it supports all this endeavour with all of this stuff and the music and whatnot. So if you want to check it out, go and check it out over there. And if not, that's fine. Subscribe and whatnot, and I'll see you in the next video. Probably not on this one. It's going to be on the Meteor, but yeah, pretty cool, right? Pretty cool.